When I attend a social event that's outside the wine industry and I'm asked about my job, I often joke that I drink for a living. Bum. After I clarify that I write about wine, I usually get questions about what exactly does that involve and some misconceptions about drinking champagne all day in between planning luxe trips to Tuscany and Napa Valley. However, it's not all beer and Skittles, rainbows and unicorns. Since there's always been quite a bit of curiosity about what I do, I'd like to take you behind the scenes in this episode with a day in the life of a wine writer. 7 days, in fact. I'm going to record a short update each day and let you know what I do that's related to my job, plus a few personal details so that we can get to know each other better. Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 47. When I attend a social event that's outside the wine industry and I'm asked about my job, I often joke that I drink for a living. Bum. After I clarify that I write about wine, I usually get questions about what exactly does that involve and some misconceptions about drinking champagne all day in between planning luxe trips to Tuscany and Napa Valley. However, it's not all beer and Skittles, rainbows and unicorns. The reality is that writing about wine is work. Try tasting 30 Cabernets at 9 a.m. and spitting them out, then writing tasting notes for each one. I liken it to a movie critic who has to analyze the plot line, character development, and other aspects of a film versus those of us who just go to watch and relax. Now, there is no need to play those tiny violins for me. I love what I do. However, I thought that since there's always been quite a bit of curiosity about what I do, I'd like to take you behind the scenes in this episode with a day in the life of a wine writer. 7 days, in fact. I'm going to record a short update each day and let you know what I do that's related to my job, plus a few personal details so that we can get to know each other better. Okay, here we go. I'm starting this on a Wednesday since that's podcast day. My podcast is published at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, midnight on the West Coast, so that it still qualifies for the Wine Wednesday hashtag when we share it on social media. This is also the day when I'm recording next week's episode, like I'm doing right now. I'm determined to get to the point where I batch these episodes, i.e. record, say, 4 to 6 of them in a row on one day, as I know that will be far more efficient and far more effective. Studies show that when we batch any task, we get into a mental flow state that makes the creative part of the flow go more easily. And conversely, when we go from one task to another, context switching, it takes us an average of 23 minutes to get back into the groove. Multitasking is a myth, but alas, for now, I'm living week to week. As you know, I tend to alternate guest interviews with solo episodes like this one. So when it's a guest interview, my amazing podcast editor, Alex, sends me the audio file. She gets rid of all my ums and ahs, as well as anything that references the Facebook viewers if this interview was first broadcast on a Facebook Live. By the way, you can join me on Facebook Live video every second Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern at nataliemclean.com/live. I don't interview guests there anymore because the scheduling was a bit nuts, particularly with winemakers, writers, and sommeliers who are on vastly different time zones. As well, the bandwidth and tech issues sometimes made the recording choppy. Hashtag understatement. So now I still interview guests, but on Zoom video, which is a tool that's similar to Skype, and then I publish it on my website when it's complete. You can find that lineup of past and upcoming guests at nataliemaclean.com/videos. Once I record my solo, like today, or an intro and outro for a guest, I send it to Alex, who does the final edit. She puts those pieces together along with the musical intro and final outro that you hear every week. Then she creates the show notes for the episode that includes any wines I mention, books, wine gadgets, the website and social media handles of a guest, and so on. You'll find those resources for this episode at nataliemaclean.com/47. Then Alex uploads the podcast and those notes to my podcast host, Libsyn, who distributes it to Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes, Google Podcasts, Android devices, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, podcast apps like Overcast, Castro, Pocket Casts, and about 100 others, plus smart speakers like Alexa, Apple HomePod, Sonos, and Google Home. And soon, I'm very excited to share with you, the podcast will be on Pandora, which I just found out has a larger audience than Spotify. Imagine. So now you can see why podcasting is so powerful, and I'm so into it. It's not just the sheer reach and channels, but it's also about the intimacy. I'm here inside your earbuds. It's cozy in here, by the way. And you are one of those golden podcast listeners who tend to listen to almost 100% of each episode, even when they're 30 to 60 minutes long. Now contrast that to the average watch time on Facebook for any video there, which is less than a minute. You are very special to me. Finally, Alex creates an audiogram, a short audio snippet from the episode that plays like a video and is custom created to fit and play on each of the major social platforms: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Next, my social media manager, Ellen, creates the sharing text to accompany that audiogram and shares it across the various platforms. Lori, my Instagram expert, shares it there. Ellen also drafts the podcast newsletter, which you receive on Wednesday mornings, and Helena, my amazing assistant, does the edit, and then I do the final edit and send it to you. As you can see, it takes a village. And this is just for the podcast. Today is also a Facebook Live day, as that happens every second Wednesday, as I mentioned. I research 3 wine-related topics that we'll chat about. Usually 2 are from the news, such as the latest study on wine and health, or how the harvest is going in certain regions. And 1 is a how-to topic, such as how to pair wine and spicy food, as we did a few episodes ago. I send these topics to Ellen, who schedules the live event on Facebook and starts sharing that across the platforms. Before I go live on my Facebook page, I host a private tasting for my students who've taken my online paid courses, either Get Wine Smart, now renamed and relaunching, I'm excited, in November, to become the Wine Smart course, a full-bodied framework to taste, pair, and buy wine like a pro, or they've taken my second course called Pairing Cheese and Wine with Style and Attitude. That course will relaunch in January. I am so excited about relaunching the Wine Smart course, and right now I'm working on a new free video wine class that I'll call either, I want your vote on this, 5 wine and food pairing mistakes you're making right now and how to fix them forever, or 5 wine and food pairing mistakes that can ruin your dinner party and how to wow your guests with perfect pairings. Which one do you prefer? Please let me know. Okay, I know this is a long update for day 1, but it's also setting the context for the rest of the week. I'm flying to Toronto tonight because I'll be on Global Television's morning show tomorrow, and then in the afternoon on CTV's The Social. I'll talk to you then. Okay, it's Thursday, and I'm up at 5 a.m. in my hotel room because today is that double header. I'll be chatting with the hosts of Global's morning show about pairing wine and cheese. It's this country's second most popular breakfast show and airs nationally. We'll be pairing wines with 3 mouth-watering cheese plates, gorgeously curated by the culinary chef team from Loblaws. Carolyn and Jeff, the hosts, love their wines, and we always have fun. Then I'll head over to CTV's The Social, where we'll be chatting about wines for dinner parties. Which wines and how many do you serve? In what order? And other questions. I adore the ladies who host The Social, which is a little bit like the American show The View, though I think The Social is better. They're now in their 7th season and going strong with more than 3.2 million viewers nationally every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I've been their wine expert since they launched in 2013, so we have covered a lot of topics and drank a lot of wine together. It's so much fun. Okay, bye for now, as I have to get ready, and I'll chat with you more tomorrow. Well, yesterday was a hoot, as my East Coast relatives would say. If you want to watch those video clips of the shows, go to nataliemclean.com/videos. And speaking of East Coast, my mom arrives from Nova Scotia today for Canadian Thanksgiving. My son Ryan is home from Waterloo University, where he's studying engineering. And my partner Miles and I met 7 years ago on Thanksgiving, so it's our anniversary. His family will join us for the big turkey dinner on Saturday because we have one of those modern families where our collective offspring usually have to endure 2 turkey dinners with their other parents. I love Thanksgiving dinner because it's a celebratory meal with family that doesn't have quite the same pressure as does Christmas. I'm going to serve my guests the lovely Henry of Pelham's Catherine Cuvée Sparkling Rosé from Niagara that I featured on The Social, then a gorgeous Pinot Noir from Sonoma called La Crema, and the topper will be a framboise made from raspberries by Southbrook Winery in Ontario. I also had that one on The Social. I do love drinking local, but I also enjoy the diversity of tastes from other regions. Okay, this update was short and sweet, so I don't run out of time to give you more updates in the remaining days. Bye for now. Good morning. It's Saturday, and 4 cases of wine arrived yesterday from various wine agencies and wineries who want my team and I to taste and review them. That, by the way, is not unusual. I get at least a case a day. I've had more than one FedEx guy offer to come in and help me taste them. I'm on a first-name basis with most of the delivery folks. Currently, I have a backlog of more than 300 wines right now that need to be tasted. I know, play those little tiny violins again. However, I do approach tasting the wines I receive seriously, as I know how much effort and heart goes into making each wine. I spend about 5 minutes with each wine analyzing its key aspects: sight, smell, taste, body, finish, as well as components like acidity, tannin structure, and balance. Then I finally try to get really creative with food pairings. So that backlog of 300 wines represents about 25 hours of work. The wines sent to me are neither low end, say under $10, because most consumers don't follow wine reviews to choose them since they're relatively low risk cost-wise, and they're repeat purchases often week after week. But nor do I get often the extremely expensive or rare wines, say over $100, because those wines are often made in small quantities and sell out in stores quickly, or they have a mailing list of customers just waiting to snap up the new vintage. They don't need my review. So I taste mostly in the middle, mostly in between $15 and $50, where most of my listeners and readers buy their wines. I'll taste anywhere between 5 and 15 wines a day on average, some days more, some days less. And then I pass those bottles, those open wines, on to various wine writers on my team so that each wine gets multiple reviews. When I switched to this system about 7 years ago, passing the wines on rather than, yes, dumping and then putting them into recycle, it was a great disappointment to the three entrepreneurial people who would compete with each other on bottle recycle days to get to my overflowing bins first. Now, when I attend a big tasting, say at the LCBO for media, I get a lot of support from the wonderful Deb, who prepares my tasting sheets. She spends a good 8 hours on these before and after the tasting, making sure the facts are correct and we have more details on each wine than what is provided by the liquor store. She checks my tasting notes for typos and spelling, and then I upload them to the site and publish. I also host tastings for my team of 30 wine writers and sommeliers periodically. These folks mostly live in Ottawa, though some drive in from Montreal, Toronto, and Picton and make a weekend of it. We're usually tasting about 50 to 70 wines over the course of a Sunday afternoon between 1 and 6. It's a lot of fun, and we reconnect with each other, and there are hundreds of reviews that result, with lots of sharing on social media. I'll wrap up now as we're getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner. Well, it's a glorious Sunday morning, and the leaves on the trees outside my window are burning red and orange through the sunlight. Dinner last night was spectacular. Miles is such a great cook, and thank goodness, because I don't cook, I pull corks. Lots of laughter, great wine, and food. Earlier in the day, Mom, Ryan, Miles, and I went cake shopping. We discovered the cake shop in Westboro, and it's divine. All the ingredients are top-notch, and the creativity of these cakes is stunning. We bought a poutine cake, a marble cake with icing, French fries, and gravy, inspired by that latest Sandra Oh commercial for Air Canada. You've got to see that if you haven't. A carrot cake, also with orange Belgian chocolate flakes on top that reminded me of Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum, Bilbao in Spain. And then we doubled down with a double chocolate cake and chocolate mousse. Today's priority? Something I call the repentant workout. Both weights and the elliptical for cardio. That'll probably work off one slice of cake, but I had a little more than one. Okay, I'm off to do my penance. I'll chat with you tomorrow. It's Monday, and I'm working on the weekly Wine Picks newsletter. Ellen, the wonderful Ellen, drafts that for me first, which helps a lot. I'm also working on redesigning parts of my site with my amazing graphics designer, Mike, as well as my web developer and coder, whose name I'm going to keep secret. Because great coders are impossible to find. He is so gifted, and we've been working together for 12 years now. Now, all of my team members are truly gifted. However, there are just over 3 million unfilled jobs for coders in the United States alone. I'm not sure what the number is in Canada. So, thus the secrecy. And I am so glad that my son Ryan is studying computer engineering at Waterloo, given his job prospects. Okay, tomorrow I'll wrap up. It's Tuesday, and today I'll be looking at my mobile apps for iPhone, iPad, and Android to see if we need to upgrade them with the new operating systems that were recently released on those platforms. The apps are free, and they are the only apps on the market that scan both front labels of wines with an optical scanner, as well as scanning back barcodes with a barcode reader. That instantly accesses my tasting notes, scores, food pairings, and the stock of those wines in your closest liquor store. Yes, I do sell a subscription to my wine reviews, which is pretty modest, as that's how I recoup the development costs of the website and apps, which now run about $300,000 a year, plus my modest salary because I can't pay the mortgage with wine. Finally, I'm working on my third book for Random House, and it is going so well. I hope to have a rough draft manuscript for my editor by January. This book will be a little different from my first two that were focused on my travel adventures to various wine regions around the world. Those were Red, White, and Drunk All Over, a wine-soaked journey from grape to glass, which is available on paperback, Kindle, and audio. I read it myself. It was chosen by Amazon as one of the best books of the year and made it to number 4 on the bestseller list, the national nonfiction bestseller list. The second was Unquenchable, a tipsy quest to find the world's best bargain bottles, also picked by Amazon that year, as well as the Globe and Mail's best books of the year. So this book will be a memoir, but set within the wine world and social media. It's going to have lots of very current themes and thorny issues, but as always, lots of laughs and great wine. I'll keep you in the loop as it develops. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at my life. You'll find the links to the wines I mentioned, my books, mobile apps, and TV segments in the show notes at nataliemaclean.com/47. So what was your favorite tip or quip from this episode? Do you have a question I did not answer? I'd be happy to do that. So share that with me on Twitter or Facebook and tag me at Natalie MacLean. On Instagram, I'm at Natalie MacLean Wine. If you liked this episode, please tell a friend about it. That is the best thing you can do to support me, especially one who is interested in a behind-the-scenes peek at a wine writer's life. There are a lot of people who are curious about that, so I bet you know a friend who might be. My podcast is easy to find whether you search Google on its name, Unreserved Wine Talk, or on my name. Finally, if you want to take your ability to pair food and wine to the next level, join me in a free online video class at nataliemaclean.com/class. I can't wait to share more wine stories with you next week. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this one. I hope something great is in your glass this week, perhaps a terrific glass of wine that pairs well with a wine podcast. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So subscribe for free now at nataliemaclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.